you're the first shooter up on stage one. You just got there. You're like, oh my God, I just showed up and I got to shoot first. So you get a half stage warm up. What did you
Yeah.
think of the stages though? How'd you like them?
I thought they were good. I thought it was a good mix. They were very challenging moving targets. Like very challenging moving targets.
And that is another thing that I've seen in the IPSC matches now that I'm starting to get irritated about. Man, I love the actual moving targets, like on a rail or a cable, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I wish I've seen it in Bianchi Cup when I've watched that, but I would love to see that at like a nationals level match, where add in that other component where it's not just doing this, but it's,
Yeah. Yeah, they had like a slider with two plates on it that did that.
okay. I even saw somewhere they were someone said they got a little out of control at one point because not only was it moving from, left to right or right to left,
Yes,
but
they
it was
had
also doing
yeah,
this.
they had two targets like that. It was a slider that was also a swinger. And they put no
Okay.
shoots on both of those because it wasn't hard enough or
Mm.
punishing enough.
That's right. That's what they said too. Is like the part that was out of control was the fact that they then put no shoots on it.
Yeah, it was nuts.
But I think that would be a good challenge for super squad level guys. You're on the super squad. Here you go. Here's not necessarily the no shoots, but
Yeah.
a slider slash swinger
Hmm.
moving across. Good way to separate. The
Yeah.
top from the bottom.
Yeah, the no shoot like it being there was fine. The no shoot on it was the problem.
Right.
The
I
thing
get
that made
that.
it too much.
Yeah, just remove that. Throw that in
Yeah.
a USPSA Nationals match. Especially, why not a PCC? You don't have to put the no shoot on there, but put that sucker out at 40 yards and moving across
So
there.
the challenge with that is making something that'll last the whole time, that'll be the same the whole time. And they're never, in recent history, they haven't been at a place long enough where you could
Mm,
set up those permanent oven like contraptions like that sliding steel thing that was set up for probably months ahead of time, maybe even years that they were there.
okay.
Like everything was bomb proof that I saw.
Kind of like Bianchi Cup, where they have it the same place
Yep.
every single year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Huh. So, what are your thoughts then on the USPSA eventually doing it at one spot and not moving it around?
Like owning a place or just picking like this is our range for nationals for the next 10 years.
That's what I would say because I
That
mean
makes sense. I
financially,
think you're going to get people that'll complain about how far it is from them or what part of the country that it's close to.
right.
If it's announced enough ahead of time and notice is given enough ahead of time when the matches will be where it's at, people can plan ahead for it.
Yeah,
Like if
absolutely.
it's announced, what was Care Optics announced? What they announced it in September, and the match was in the next June, so 9 months ahead. So some people can't put in vacation that short amount of notice, so they can't go.
Agree.
They should be right now working on 2024 nationals. Maybe they are, but
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah,
I would say that it should be announced a minimum of 12 months ahead of time. So if they knew the Nationals was going to be in June, announce it in June. Don't wait till Nationals. Say, hey, heads up, we're going to be here
yeah,
June of 23. It's going to be here. So, and then you can give more details later. But at least then people are like, oh, that's the range. That's where we're going. Because I agree.
yeah,
I mean, for me, being a lot where everybody takes vacation in the summertime.
hmm,
So October for nationals was good for me because it was easier for me to get leave,
yeah,
to go and do it. June is much harder. And if you're not putting in your leave 12 months ahead of time, like you're saying,
yep,
it's a struggle. We have 600 plus firefighters that one off the same time every year. Everybody wants the same time off. It's kind of hard to let that many people off when you're critical employees.
Yeah,
So
that'd be tough.
it's kind of hard to work remote, putting out fires or saving people from
Yeah,
death.
that would be tough.
So, and people just don't know how to stay out of trouble. So it doesn't work.
You can't tell them that there'll be no help this weekend, so don't burn your house down or don't get in an
I
accident.
try telling them that all the time. My supervisors don't like that. So, what was it I said the other day? It's probably a good reason not to do fentanyl. That's what I said. I forget exactly what the situation was. Yeah, she had overdosed,
There's
and
probably not too many good reasons to do fentanyl, though.
there's about zero good reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when she was, when I slowly woke her up. I took my time, and that's not doing harm, but it's actually easier on the patient the slower you bring them out of it.
Well, she probably spent a bunch of
So
money on those drugs also and needed to get her
she
money's worth.
exactly, yeah. That is, you're actually closer to the truth than you think. Plenty of people get mad that you ruin their high when you
I'll
bring them out
bet.
of it fast.
Yeah.
So but I forget what it was. Her girlfriend said something, and I was like, that's probably a good reason to stop doing fentanyl. So I try to find a way to be forceful without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
So try to be I'm not very good at it. I had one of our higher ups say, if you guys want her to stop calling, you just need to send Dave on the next call. She'll stop calling. Now, I also thought that the stages were incredibly decorated. I was
At
like,
World Shoot, so they're always like
yeah.
that.
It's like,
All
wow.
the World Shoots I've shot, 3 now, are all like that. So
Really?
it's a pride thing, I think. So you're showing your country off to the world. They did it in Florida. They had a guy come in. I think he
Oh,
was there for a month doing
wow.
decorations on the stages. Yeah.
What theme was it in Florida?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because that obviously had a very Thai feel to it.
Yeah, they had like
Um,
a fruits of Thailand, the dishes of Thailand, the animals of Thailand,
yeah.
the like traditions. Just it was all representative of what Thailand was or what they had there. They might have had 2 fruit sections, I think, or 2 food sections.
Man, I do love to try different food. Now, was there anything about the way they did the stages that you didn't like?
The bays didn't, so 4 sets of the stages didn't have a lot of distance on them. So they were broken up to 6 bay sections, and there was 5 of them. Only one of those 5 sections had anything where you could get past 25 yards.
Mm.
All 4 other sections were within 25 yards. I guess you could do an angle on one and get a little further, but I mean, that one section tested, I think there was 5 or 6 shots over 30, 35 yards, and one was at like 45.
Okay.
Coming from France, there was one stage that had like a 62-yard or 65-yard target on it. And that stage had multiple targets over 30 and 40 yards in France compared
Wow.
to what they had at Thailand. So it just depends on the bay layout. I don't think it didn't adversely affect the match at all. It was still plenty challenging.
I had someone say they weren't impressed with the ROs.
I had no issues with the ROs. I had no issues at all. There was little stuff where they were short beeping you or stuff like that. But going into something like that, you have to expect that, and you can't let that kind of bother you. You're going to
Mm.
expect to get kind of hassled for your equipment at some point. You're going to get hassled about your start, like where you're choosing to put your hands or where your feet are, or where you're looking on the stage, which they want you like facing downrange all the time. So a lot of it, you could just like preemptively like look downrange and not try to game it or turn your head at all. And that took a lot of that element out of it. Like
So do you think
I expected a bunch, and not as experienced as ROs as you'd want, but there's probably, how many were there? There were 30 stages. You had probably 3 on each, so 120 plus resetters. They had people come in for that, but there's probably 120 IROA staff there or at minimum.
So do you think part of the issue then is just the fact that a lot of them are new to this style shooting and used to USPSA style rules, so the
No.
ROs might hassle them a little more
That could be
because
a
of that?
little bit of it. That could be a little bit of it, or this is one of their first IPSC matches. USPSA lets you get away with a lot more. IPSC does
Right.
not. It's just how that's the culture of IPSC versus USPSA.
The one of the specific, I don't want to call it a complaint, but observations, that's what I'll
Yeah.
call it, that someone had was they felt that the ROs were too far away from people at times, whether it was with a beep or just capturing the actual report of the pistol. And some of those were being missed because they were too far from the shooter.
I think that happens. I think it happens all like it can happen anywhere. I don't think it was a specific thing with them.
Okay. So it wasn't anything that you really noticed.
No, not really. I heard talk
Okay.
about it, but it's not. It's something that you can't affect or do anything with. So I'm not gonna let it bother me.
How did you like? How about the humidity? Did that mess with you?
It was hot there. It was really hot. Like
Yeah.
it was not like it is here in the US and or like in Florida or anything like that. It was totally different. Like it was probably 90 degrees, but the humidity was probably 100% the whole time. Like immediately start sweating like as soon as you walk out of the hotel. Like even if you're just waiting for the car, you're drenched in sweat and sweating the whole time. So just drinking tons of water and making sure you stay hydrated. Like when I stopped in South Korea, I'm like, I need to drink water because I knew I had to get ahead. And that 12 hours, like I stopped, I went to like a 7-Eleven because it was on the corner to get bottled water before I actually went to sleep. So I made sure and drink water before that and like get up in the morning, like pounding water, drink like 2 Pedialyte packets every day, like one to start out the day just to try to stay ahead of it.
Right. Well, and I think that's the part that people miss is it's great that you're drinking water, but water doesn't replace electrolytes. And if you're not
Yep.
replacing electrolytes, you're still going to suck wind.
Yeah.
So good for you. But I've been to the Philippines 3 times, so I know exactly what you're talking about because it's the exact same weather. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but the worst Florida's been. Florida, I think, is hotter, but that was more, I don't know, humid or whatever you want to call it. But it was all that. It was definitely hot. It was sticky
yeah,
and sweated a ton.
I totally get it. And you're there almost right at the middle of the summer. Like it hadn't even quite gotten summer yet. You still
Right.
had a month to go before
Yep.
you were. It's like it'd be like May here. So
Yeah.
you going to do the next World Shoot?
I'm waiting to see what they come out with the qualification process, honestly.
Okay,
It's in South Africa, sorry, in 2025. So
South Africa, right?
South Africa, yeah. If they
Yeah.
follow the same way they've done it in the past, this year, 2023 and 2024 will be qualification years. I've heard that they're thinking about doing that or adding some different ways to qualify. I don't really know.
So they haven't finalized that then.
No, they were going to
The
talk about it at
process.
the in-person meeting,
Okay.
but they haven't got the minutes up for that. So no one knows really what they even talked about.
Right, because they're not supposed to talk about it until the minutes come out, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. That confuses me, but okay.
What do you mean? You hear a bunch of stuff from the meeting beforehand?
What's that?
Do you hear a bunch of stuff from the meeting before the minutes are out?
Well, no, this is where being tired. I'm thinking member meetings
Oh,
where you're allowing the membership, not yeah.
so that's
They're-
technically also a meeting as part of the bylaws, but no one on the board at the time I was on there would agree to that, which they think it's something separate, but the way the bylaws are written in my interpretation of it, those are technically meetings as part of
Yeah.
the organization, and motions could be made and all that. Like they should be called to order, they should read the previous minutes, they should put out minutes from it, all that stuff. But
The only difference is you're allowing the members in to be a part of the meeting.
yeah, it's basically a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's open. It's basically an open meeting to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind was at when you said in person. I was thinking member. So
Oh,
that's the part. Yeah, yeah. No, I
yeah.
totally get. Never mind.
Yeah. No problem.
Just slow hard drive right now.
All good. All good.
So no, I'm fine with that. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will.
But that but that brings us to the survey they just sent out
Yeah.
and limited optics.
Yeah.
That's one of them. What else did I have down here?
Limited 10
The
revolver.
Yep, well, if you want to call it revolver optics,
Yeah, well,
it's pretty much. It sounds like
so let's
and I
talk about that. Let's do limited 10 and add the optics to it and revolver optics to it, right?
okay,
Uh, there was probably a handful of people asking for this, and I don't understand how they took that little amount of people asking for it to modify the division. L10 should be gone. It should have been gone a long time ago. It makes no sense. If this makes sense and there's actually people that are participating in it that are shooting it not to just get a classification, which hasn't been proven yet at this point, except for certain states, and people hiding from other people and just to get trophies. There's no reason to have it, but I don't see a lot of people shooting the division at this point, even with those changes, which even if they talked about them, they still couldn't vote on them because it's less than 90 days for member input. And then they wouldn't even take effect until 2024, January 31st, 2024, if they did vote on them and followed all the proper timing through the bylaws.
I feel that it's going to be a provisional
Well,
division.
limited 10 optics is what I was talking about. So anything voted
Right.
on in the current divisions, they can't vote on it in that meeting per the bylaws. They had to wait 90 days after and allow that time before they could even vote on it for member input. So they put the minutes out for all these changes to divisions. What, December 28th, 2022.
20th, yeah,
So they couldn't even vote on these until March
till
28th,
March.
2022,
Okay,
2023 per the bylaws. Now, knowing them, they could just throw those out and do it anyway because they've done it in the past.
okay, I'm tracking you.
Uh, I really think it was way too messy. You know, you can't change these till 2024. There's timelines in the bylaws saying you have to submit them by August. Like, why wouldn't they just do it after they do all these? Like, they put too much stuff out at a time. Like, okay, we can say they never put stuff out and now they put everything out. I would rather have everything than nothing, but they have to be smart about like putting that many actual like competition rules changes out and the divisions and adding the provisional division all at the same time just made everything messy. It was too much. And multi-gun
Okay,
changes and steel challenge changes. They put all that out at the exact same time.
they did.
It
That
was
was a
too
lot.
much.
Yeah, you were having to scroll through and read a chart. It's like, what in the
Yeah.
world am I reading here? So
But if they decide to either do this, put everything out, or nothing, I'd rather have them put everything out.
yeah, I agree.
It's a good step, but it felt like it was, we need to rush and get this out there because the meeting's coming up. And so they threw it together at the last minute. And Troy even admitted on the NROI podcast that the questions weren't worded very good during the survey. They could have
Right.
taken more time with that. If that was a priority for them, they would have taken more time on it, spent more time on it, and actually had a plan through this whole thing. So that's current divisions. If we want to, anything else on them before I go on, I guess we could talk about production real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about production.
So they had talked about no changes, changing it to 15 rounds fit the box with no aftermarket base pads, 15
Right.
rounds fit the box with aftermarket base pads, or just fit the box, whatever you could put in there. Um, I think having no aftermarket base pads is a total loss. Like they cannot do that because so many people have aftermarket base pads now. It just wouldn't make sense. And having to have them all revert their gear back to factory, it would just cost the members a bunch of money. It doesn't make sense. 15 rounds, fit the box, or just load up to capacity, fit the box. I think they're one and the same. Load up to capacity, fit the box. Yes, eventually you'll probably have a handful of guns that have more capacity than the other non-handful of guns. Like maybe they have 1 or 2 rounds more.
I mean, you have that
That
now in
happens
carry
in
optics.
you have that in carry optics, you have that in limited, you have that in
Yeah.
open, like you have that in every division now. To put the 15 round limit on it, I've shot enough IPSC, I've shot enough matches that the ROs do not count. They don't count to 10 now to verify people are shooting 10 rounds. If they do, it's very, very infrequently. They're not going to count to 15 because it's even harder because they could be doing multiple rays at that point. So they shot 6 rounds over here, they got 4 here, and then they're going to go shoot. Oh, did they shoot 6 there or 5 there or 7 there? Like it's just not realistic. So
Right.
you can either go to some kind of instruments that measures it. You can use a mag gauge that we already have. That makes it like limited minor. No one was really pushing for that. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you have the box already. So you use the box as the metric for the size of the guns.
So
With
just whatever fits the box.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest thing to do. That keeps the guns mostly production. Yeah, you could use a Glock 26 size gun and put a mag extension on it, but you're still going to be the same overall height. Like there's a maximum amount of thickness that the gun and grips and magazine could go, and the overall length is a maximum also. So there's a factor that you can't go above on that. Just like the mag gauge, it's the same thing.
Right.
Like if they created a block or a new mag gauge, it would do the same thing. I don't think they want to do that. We already have a measuring device that's in use. Now, people will say, like, how do you do that on a stage? Like, if you think somebody's cheating using an illegal mag. So what do? As an RO, you grab that mag off the floor, hold it. When the competitor gets done, you get a box and you take them to the safe area, have them verify it. It doesn't slow down anything. You still have the other ROs run the shooters that are shooting that stage. And you can immediately verify it on every stage. So if someone is out there suspected of cheating, you just go around and put their gun and mags in a box. It wouldn't slow down anything. It'd be the same as measuring mags. And if
Now,
someone's suspected to have a high mag, a long mag, people check it, or people get asked to check it.
yeah, I could see that. Hold each other accountable. I mean, you've been around longer than I have in this sport. Have you seen that many people trying to cheat at a major match with illegal equipment?
The competitors police themselves. The competitors enforce all those rules, including like the equipment rules, like what's legal in divisions, because they're going to see it on their competitors that they're shooting against and report it to people if they want to. Most people aren't going to take a risk of running afoul of it because it's basically shooting for no score.
You're just there firing rounds downrange at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and my point was getting at, I just don't see that many people trying to cheat the system in that way.
I don't think a lot of people will. I think if they do go to the box, there'll be some amount of time where people go back from limited minor to production because half of the competitors and activity from limited is minor, which means people are loading up their mags and shooting limited minor.
Right.
So we have a set, like 12% of the organization and activity fees are already shooting this, or like in the organization that aren't in a division that makes sense for their equipment.
Right.
Now, this will make sense when we start talking about limited optics because all we hear is, oh, these people aren't shooting because they have no place to go. Why are we going to basically create a division for people that aren't even shooting the organization when we have a 12 or 13% of the organization activity fees already participating in a non-ideal division. We should address that issue before we create a new division. Now, do I think the board is going to not do that, and create a new division? 100% they're going to create a new division. There's no stopping it. It will happen.
Agree.
It's foregone at this point. Now, if they did it in the in-person meeting or not, or have to do it after, it's 100% going to happen.
And I totally agree. Yeah, and eventually that's where we're going. Now, what are your answers for the first problem, the 12% that are not shooting a division?
You'd immediately fix that if you went to the box, because
Just go
they
to the
could load
box
up
and leave it
their
alone.
they could load
Okay.
up their 15, 17 round Glock whatever mags and fit in the box and have no problem. It immediately
I like
fixes that
that.
issue. Maybe it doesn't pull all 12%. Maybe some number of that is shooting limited size mag extensions with minor. They could choose to go back to a shorter pad or factory pads, but they still can shoot limited minor also.
Do you think that would not push, but draw a few more people back to production by doing that?
I think it would, yeah.
I do too. I don't know how many more shoot a major match, but I definitely see more people at like area local matches shooting production, being able to fill their mags. Definitely make them happier. But I think you do eventually over time get bleed over to where they become more serious and then, shoot major matches, maybe nationals as well.
Yeah, I think so. Over time, yeah. It would hurt limited. Limited numbers are artificially pumped up at this point because of that. And they have been for years.
All the limited minor folks,
Yep.
all the Nils Jonasons out there.
Yeah, it would take production. That's I think we have 8 divisions, so it's 8, 7, the sixth. It would take production from like the 6th to the 3rd, and the number of people in the division, and it bumped
Wow, you think
limited
it
from like 3rd to 5th or something like that.
You think it would push limited below PCC? I feel like it
Yes.
would still be above PCC.
It'd be below it.
Oh, okay.
It would
Very
be carry
interesting.
optics, open, production. If you move the minor shooters over,
Right.
then it would be PCC, and then limited. So limited would be 5th. Then you have single stack L10 revolver. You
Together,
basically
really.
flip limited in production, 3rd to 5th and 5th to 3rd.
That would be a big change.
The numbers reflect it. It would just be relabeling them, right?
Now, you mentioned earlier limited 10 should be done away with.
Yeah, we have a rule in the rule book that already says if a state has restrictions on magazine capacity, you have to refer to the state's capacity. I've been saying this for years. That's NROI does not interpret it that way, because they think that if it's not just an outright ban, that rule does not take place. So that's why California isn't limited to 10 round only. They're limited. It's open because anybody that had mags previously can use them. Which this issue came up. It came up in the Colorado cameo thing last year,
Right.
where it was not done that way, and we had all this issue. New York is done right now like that, so no mags over 10 rounds. So you have limited 10, and then you have limited 10, then you have production, which is 10, single stack revolver. You have open 10, PCC 10, carry optics 10, because the state has those rules. So it's already there. We already have a mechanism for it within the rules. We just have to, use the rules that we have.
Now, just due to participation, what about revolver? Because, I mean, it is a minor.
I think
fraction.
it's a different enough thing that it doesn't really hurt anything. It's not really harming anything. The people, like everybody said, the people are going to determine how much that division is used for. And it's already going. I think it's pretty steady, actually. Come to think of it, I think it's had basically the same participation for years. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it. Pretty much the same 3%.
Yeah, and then
or whatever it is.
You get the same 50, 40, 50 people that shoot at nationals every year. It's fine. Now, if we had one nationals or two nationals and they were taking slots up from the more popular divisions, that would be a different conversation.
So that brings up an interesting question that I would have. If you were to, let's say you decided there was going to be an optics and an iron sight nationals.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on for like iron sights where it's broken down this or last year? This numbers were 3% of the people shot revolvers. So at nationals, only 3% of iron sight nationals can be revolver shooters. There's only 3% will be, so that would be out of 300, that'd be 9 people would be able to shoot revolver.
I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but that seems like it would be very restrictive. But it kind of
It
makes
would.
sense. Like, how do you
It
choose
would.
those people then?
Well, and that would be the issue. You know, that would be the conundrum you would find yourself in. But at the same time, then, you know, if production was of iron sights, if it was 60%,
Yeah.
then at least you could say 60% of iron sights nationals is going to be production shooters, since that is the most popular iron sight division.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting about registration and stuff. Like, how do you restrict who can? Because what if you got a production slot, then want to shoot revolver? You tell them no, and then they don't show up. At this point, the Nationals can't afford to be turning away people. They cost too much.
Then we need a bigger place where we have more shooters.
Or you put it into less Nationals so you have the chance of losing less money.
Okay, there's your other option. Either way. All
If
right.
I said one Nationals again, I'd have like a 12-year-old girl complaining to me because she can't run around and win 7 national titles for her category.
I do like the idea of fewer nationals.
And you know what? You wouldn't have to. You could plan it out far enough ahead where, yeah, if the match was 4 or 5 days long, yes, it would require more time off for that one match. But there's about 300 people that shoot nationals that shoot more than one nationals a year. So those people, including the staff, that I don't know what the staff number would be. I'm sure there's some number of staff that staff more than one nationals that have to take off more time than what one nationals would be, even though it is a longer period of time that you would have to be on the ground or at the match in at once compared to doing 3 days on at 3 different nationals or 3 days at 2 different nationals. Just think if you could take 5 days at one nationals, it'd be one less day, as an example.
How would it work? What would it look like?
Well, I mean, you could do. It's been done before where you do like 4 days of the main match and like 2 or 3 days of the staff match. It's simple math at that point where you just like see how many. Well, you'd have to find a range that can hold that many first, which there's enough out there. Now, if people choose to not go there anymore, that's their choice. But there's enough ranges out there that could host a 24 bay nationals. They exist. There's more than one of them, and they're all throughout the country.
Until next time.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah.